This one skill is especially useful if you want to succeed in the OnlyFans management industry, yet nobody wants to talk about it. And that is sexting. Never thought I'd be making videos like this, but here we are. In all seriousness, if you and your chatters have good sexting, you'll be able to get more fans to engage and buy content, spend more money on it, and buy it for longer. Starting off with one of the biggest unlocks for more effective sexting. So if you're going to take anything from this video, have it be this. If you've read many chats, you'll know that most chatters will sext about what is happening right now as they're sending the content. They'll sell content that's meant to be taken live and really focus on, it's so hot that I'm sending you this. I can't believe I'm sending you this. Now I'm doing this thinking about you. Want me to show you? Want me to show you? It's all about what's happening right now. They're focusing on the content itself. That's what gets the fan to keep on buying, is the curiosity and the excitement of seeing the next video. Now, that turns into a problem when you have a creator that maybe doesn't show as much. Maybe the content quality isn't very good. It's gonna be harder to do this, to pull it off. They'll say things like, oh, how exciting is it that I'm showing you this? It's that sort of first time heat of the moment thing that gets the fan to buy. This works at first, 100% it works at first. And there are some fans where this will keep on working forever. But from what I've seen, it's relatively unsustainable. Because if you think about it, how many times can you really go, now I'm gonna show you my boobs. Now I'm gonna show you this, now I'm gonna show you that. Oh, but I've seen that a million times. No matter what content the creator does, it's gonna get to a point where a fan has seen it all. And then what? That's not gonna be exciting enough anymore. This is where story-based sexting comes into play. It stays exciting for longer. And all story-based sexting is talking about what the creator and the fan would be doing if they were together. Now, some chatters will do this, even with this kind of approach. They'll go, if you were here, I'd want to do this, this. It's not that though. It's actually telling one really long, detailed story that the fan can really visualize as you sell them pay-per-views. It doesn't rely on the content quality. You don't need the most exciting content. The story doesn't even have to be relevant to the content. The words are what get them excited, and the content becomes where they pay, if the story is good enough. It allows you to include the fans' preferences. There are so many different things that fans are into that make them buy. And it's very hard to get a creator to make all these different kinds of content to cater to every fan. So it's much easier to change what you're saying and send any content, and it works. If you do it right, it works. One thing that's really important for all kinds of sexting that you should definitely consider is pacing. What I mean by that is, when you're sexting, you want to start with the least exciting stuff and get more and more and more exciting. Because the way you keep fans engaged for longer is you have to get more exciting all the time, even if it's just by a little bit. If you go 0 to 100 with whatever you're saying or whatever content you're showing, it's going to be harder to keep them excited with the same stuff because it can only get so exciting. You need that constant rise in excitement, right? And that's really easy if you're doing the story-based sexting, because it's a story. It can have a beginning where it's not as sexual, medium, it gets more sexual, middle, and then an end where it's like super sexual. You know what I'm saying? That's what really helps keep fans for long sessions of spending. That brings me on to another really simple way you can improve your sexting, like right now. And that is by expanding on what you're saying. And it's really simple. You just want to be saying more when you're sexting. Send multiple messages rather than long paragraphs. So a bunch of short messages, I find, is better than just sending one really long detailed paragraph, right? It helps by making it seem real. It doesn't look like you copy pasted it. It helps with the pacing, like I was saying before, and they're constantly just being retained, reading it, then the next thing, then the next thing, then the next thing, rather than just one long paragraph like, oh, let me read it. Does that make sense? Here's two examples by the power of ChatGPT. Now, they're not sexual examples, but it sort of shows you what I'm saying. You tell me which sounds more suspenseful and which helps you visualize this more. I could say, this morning I went to the shops. You might be able to kind of imagine me doing that, but not really. What if I said, I got out of bed, slowly got dressed, walked out the door, stepped onto the footpath, and walked to the shops? You imagined that much more vividly. I know you did. You need to apply that to your sexting. If you're reading what your chatters are saying and they're just saying things like straight away, even if it's something sexual or something the fan is into, they need to be trying to get more words for their idea. This is what will really help with that pacing, keeping them retained, and making the story feel exciting. The sheer amount of times that I've seen a fan wasn't buying, we find out what they're into, start sexting about it, and before you know it, they're unlocking the same content they weren't buying before. All by just talking about the things that they are into. Including fans' preferences in your sexting is super important. This is what separates mediocre chatters from great chatters. It's super effective, but it can also backfire, and I'll get into that in a second. You want to be actively adjusting your story to include things that they are into. That could be positions they like, features on the creator, face, ass, boobs, feet, a fantasy they have, like a threesome. And that's the beauty of story-based sexting, is you don't need it to be in the content. You can just talk about it. That being said, there are some themes that are more likely to cause issues with the fans start trying to direct what happens in the content, which obviously you can't really do because it's going to be pre-recorded most of the time. One of the big problematic areas would be dirty talk. So if you say in your story, then I'd be screaming your name, very high chance that they're going to say, oh, well, in the next video, I want to hear you scream my name. It could also be talking about a feature like a body part that isn't in the next video. Common one is feet, because you don't think to put that in content, and then some guy will be really into feet. But I wouldn't tell you to not talk about these things, even though there's a bit of a risk, because you can navigate those difficult situations. And it's all through learning to divert with sexting. Basically, taking their attention off the thing they're asking to see and replacing it with something else, right? So they just forget about it. The way you do that is, let's go back to that example. They want to hear you scream their name in the next video. So you need to use a what if statement, say something like, well, what if I went to go scream your name, but you pushed my head down into the pillow so I couldn't make a sound. It needs to be something more exciting, right? To capture their attention. They're like, oh, wow, that is hot. More exciting idea, but make it relevant. That's how it'll work. And then you just send the content, don't say anything, they unlock it and they probably forget about it. It takes practice and it takes a few attempts sometimes. Some fans are more stubborn than others, 100%. But it really works if you get creative enough with it. When fans are into really specific things, like the other day we had some guy who was into inflatable fucking balloon animals, I don't know, right? But this chatter was freaking out and another chatter came along, saved the day, sold this guy $890 worth of stuff, all by sexting about these fucking balloon animals. It was not in the content, I promise you that. But if we hadn't been able to do that, we wouldn't have made that money. It sounds stupid, but it's true. If chatters don't know how to sext about something, if a guy says some weird term, Urban Dictionary, it has everything. They just need to learn. Never deflect it, never go, oh, that's weird, I'm not into that. You're just missing out on money. Unless it, okay, keep in mind, if it's illegal or against OnlyFans term of service, yes, don't talk about it. You always want to be seeking out fans' info for things you can include in your sexting. And to do that, you need to ask. You need to be actively going like, so what kind of things are you into? What kind of things have you always wanted to try? Stuff like that. That is crucial information. And a good way to think about it is, if you want to keep fans excited for the long term and keep on sexting, keep on selling them content, you need to have a plan to sort of increase the excitement each time. No matter what they're into, there's going to be a more intense, taboo, exciting version of that. Let's say they're into the girl sort of taking charge, which is pretty common. Next time that you sext with them, you want to up the ante a little bit. Be a bit meaner, a bit, take more control, whatever, and keep going until they seem slightly uncomfortable and then back off a little bit. You need to constantly be pushing it to keep them excited. If you say the same thing every single time, you're going to have the same problem as with the first kind of sexting that most chatters do, and they're going to get bored of it. I really hope you're taking value from the video so far. If you are, I'd love it if you could just quickly leave it a like. It helps me out a lot. I drop videos like this multiple times a week, so if they help you, consider subscribing, share it with your friends, and if there are any problems that you're facing that I could make a video on to help you, leave it in the comments and I'll try to get to all of them. Thank you. You got to admit, no one is going into this much detail on this topic. Now, I know it's weird, but the power dynamics, dominant, submissive thing is one of the most underused but effective parts of sexting. To help you apply this to your own sexting, I've made this scale here. On this side, we have where the creator is submissive. And on this side, we have full femdom, where the creator is the one in charge, so the girl, generally, right? Now, every guy kind of sits somewhere on this scale with what they're into. When you're deciding on how to sext, you don't want to base this on the creator's niche, usually. Now, there are some extreme cases where maybe you do, but most of the time you want to find out what the guy is into. And I wouldn't do that by going, are you dominant or submissive? I would say something like, would you prefer to take control or should I lead the way? That's a good line that tends to work, seems pretty natural. So you want to be changing your sexting depending on where they sit on the scale. And to help you apply this to your own sexting, I've gone and grouped them up into what most fans tend to be into. Starting off with fans that prefer when the creator is submissive. So they want to feel like the dominant one. They want to tell you what to do. Ask lots of questions. You can usually just let them kind of ramble and just make them feel like what they're saying is right. Well, wow, that's exactly what I want to do. That's so hot, blah, blah. Use emojis to seem sort of cute and submissive. That's what's going to do it for them. Seem unsure. Was that good enough? Did I do it right? Say, I'm doing this for you. It's always for you when you're sending content. Did I do well enough? Just saying things like that. Just make sure that they feel like they have the control, even if they don't. Now, moving on to neutral fans. Fans that don't really seem to, go either way. This is pretty easy. Just normal sexting. Like, you don't have to really think about it. I wouldn't push them to either of these extremes. But with these fans, I would advise that you always try to push them this way, to where the creator or the girl is the more dominant one. The reason for that is, it's more taboo, it's more exciting, it's more uncommon, and that's what's gonna excite them a lot of the time. Now, some fans will be super opposed to that. In that case, don't do it. But otherwise, I would slowly just work them up that way a little bit, if you can. Moving on to teasing. Teasing is basically in your sexting story, saying things like, I'd be about to do it, but I won't. Talk about making them wait. I'd be right about to do it, but I wouldn't do it yet. And this could be about anything. Obviously, this is YouTube, so I can't get into really specific examples, but you get the idea. I'd make you wait while I do X, Y, and Z. This is probably the most effective way of sexting. I would say that most fans sit around here with what they'll respond to best. So it's really important that you can get good at that. Moving on to leading. This is when they respond to that question with something like, you lead the way, you tell me what you want to do, right? You want to tell them what to do. Be a lot more forward, less shy. Don't ask questions, would this be good? Is this what you'd want to do? Would you like that? You want to talk in statements. Then I'm going to do this. Then you're going to do this. You're going to do this until I X, Y, Z. But you don't want to be mean yet. Just very forward with exactly what you want. This is very common. A lot of guys are into that. Then moving over here, you have guys that are into femdom, when the creator is actually starting to be mean. You'll usually know straight away if a guy's into that because they'll subscribe and start going, hey mistress, oh blah, 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 can I worship you? I don't know, it's weird. But sometimes it's gonna be guys that seemed normal, and then as you sort of prod and ask questions, you realize that that's what they're actually into. That's why it's really important to always be upping the ante and asking more questions, so on. You don't want to use flirty emojis this time. You want to act completely serious. A good trick is use full stops. So do everything that you do here where you talk in statements and you tell them what to do, but use full stops so it seems like a statement. That's it, you know what I mean? Degrade, insult, humiliate. I'm not going to give you examples. You can probably figure it out. Now, obviously there are levels to this and some people are more into it, some are less into it. So you have to kind of play around with what works. A good trick is use challenges. For example, if you send content, you could say, give me your 3 favorite things about each of these photos. Do it now. It better be good. They're going to be into that. Now with all of this, same thing applies. You want there to be pacing. If they're into the femdom thing, you don't want to be as degrading, insulting, and humiliating straight away. You want to be starting low and then upping the ante over time. That's what's going to keep them engaged for longer. That applies here, here, through all of it. One of the great things about story-based sexting is that you don't need to make it relevant to the content. You just sext about what they're into, they get excited, and the content just becomes where they pay. But if you can manage to link your sexting story to the content, it's going to make them much more likely to unlock it. You're not going to be able to do it every time, but here's some strategies you can use to do that. You can start by setting up your pay-per-view with your sexting, usually by using that teasing that I was talking about before. You know, I'd be about to do it, but I wouldn't yet. And then you connect it to the content with your caption when you send it. I saw a really good example the other day. Basically, the chatter said something like, I'd be climbing up your body, I'd be about to sit on your face, but I wouldn't do it yet. I'd be right there. And obviously he's like, oh my God, do it, do it, do it. And then she sent the pay-per-view with the caption, could you resist eating it if I did this right in front of you? And he bought it. The reason that works is that you're building up this image in his head, and then you put something in front of him that he can see to actually see it. Now, if it's not so clear cut with the content that you have access to, here's another approach. You can continue the sexting story in your caption. So for the first 1 or 2 lines, just keep going with your normal sexting story stuff. Then you finish the caption with a question that has a few answers. This is meant to give them an idea of what could be in the content without saying it for sure. Here's an example. Would your hands run over my boobs, ass, or where you've wanted them all along? So in that video, it could be her boobs, ass, or where you've wanted them all along, which could really be anything. And that's kind of the point, being ambiguous. Or you could say, would you prefer me bent over or on top of you? That being said, the most important thing is don't blatantly lie. Lying would be saying, this is a photo of a red car and it's not a photo of a red car. That's a lie. You can just say stuff that implies that something's in the video, but if you say, this is in the video, or do you like how I touch myself like this, and you're not doing it, that's a lie, they can charge back. So be very careful of that. Now, there are plenty of fans who have no interest in sexting. They just want to come on the account, buy their content, not really talk to you, and be done with it. And this is where a lot of chatters will fuck things up. Don't force the sexting on them or guilt trip them. Oh, but don't you want to have fun? It's not going to work. They're just going to go buy their content somewhere else. You'll still be able to make money. You just need a slightly different approach. One thing I would note is really try to avoid giving them a menu or a list of prices for a few reasons. There's a risk of underpricing them. They would have paid more, but now you've told them a price. Or it kind of makes the content feel like a bit of a commodity, like not very exclusive and hence less valuable. So I would avoid that if you can. Now, let's say a fan subscribes to the account and they just go, do you have any sex tapes? One thing you can do to try and, divert the conversation to try and sell them something that's easier to make more money from is you say, oh yeah, no, I have some stuff, but let me just settle in my house, settle in my room, give me a minute, haha. Be friendly. What you don't want to do is go, so what are you up to tonight? They don't want to tell you that. Most likely, they might, but a lot of them won't want to. You need to make a bit of a joke of it and say, I know small talk on this platform's a little bit weird, but what brought you to my page? Try to just have a little bit of small talk where you need to give more. Don't just ask questions and make them think about it. You give more. That buys you a little bit of time so you can try a sequence, script, drip set, whatever you call it. You just want to send them a teaser as soon as you can to try get them onto that. It'll be easier to upsell them that way. If they are really adamant about just send me content now, which might happen, a good trick is send them 2 options of something similar to what they want. Send option A, describe what it is with your caption. Option B, describe what it is with your caption. Which one would you prefer? It's the same trick they use in restaurants when they go, would you prefer red or white wine? You're more likely to pick one of them than go, no wine, none, water. You always want to be starting small if you can. Start with cheaper, lower price, shorter content to give yourself room to upsell them. If you just send them the best video, even for a good price, where can you go from there? So really try, if you have to sell them something that's shorter, cheaper, whatever, and we can go from there. And how do you do that? I have something called pay-per-view looping, which is simple. It's just you send them the first video or photos, whatever it is, the second they buy it, follow up with them and say, now I've got another idea. Now I've got something else I want to show you. Oh, there's something else you might want to see. And then just get them excited about the next thing. Okay, but you want to do it instantly, not in 5 seconds, not in 20 seconds, instantly, before they even watch it, is the point. And if you keep doing that, you can keep upselling them. So you always want to get on that path of upsells. That's how you're going to make the most money, whether it's a sexting script or just random stuff out of the vault. Now, while I would argue that sexting is probably the most important thing for getting fans to buy content and keep on buying content, something else that's super important that a lot of people neglect is captions. People just have these shitty short captions. They don't really think what's actually going to get the fan to buy. That's why I made an entire video about captioning your pay-per-views to get them to unlock. So you can watch that here. It's right there. Watch it. Enjoy the rest of your day.